We're just starting. Let's just wait for more participants to enter. We're 13 so far. And one more minute and then we start. So, yeah, let's start it. Good afternoon to everyone who's in this side of the world. Good morning to the other ones on the other side of the world. So we have people from different time zones, and I'm really glad, really glad to have three great people to discuss this very important topic for the packaging industry and to discuss innovation in the packaging industry. And I would really like to, first of all, to thank our three guests that will help us to see what's happening, what's going to come in 2021 in terms of innovation for the packaging industry. We know that it's a huge subject. We'll touch what we can in that. And I hope it's fruitful for everyone. I hope we bring some new information, and I hope that it's, first of all, that it's fun for everyone who's watching and also for our three guests. So first of all, I would like to welcome Serena Rebollo, responsible for communications, corporate communications at Packaging Cluster. She'll explain a little bit more about what it is, how she does it. And I'd like to welcome as well Brandon Frank, straight from California. So we woke him up early. So he had really to wake up, and he said, "Oh, I have 3 kids, so don't worry. I've been up since 5 a.m." So he looks fresh, but he woke up at 5 a.m. It's 7 something in the morning. So welcome, Brandon. He's the president of PPC Packaging, and he will explain a little bit more about that as well. And last but not least, I would like to welcome F. De Ferrante, who is the managing director at IPA, and he's in Utrecht, correct? In Netherlands.
That is correct, indeed.
Okay, so welcome everyone, and also thank you for everyone who's joining us. So far, we have 17 people online and growing and counting. So really thank you for joining us. So Serena, if you could please start and say, hey, what is Packaging Cluster briefly, just for people to understand what it is that you do and what you, so before we jump into the innovation.
Well, thank you so much, Cristiano. We are so glad to be here with all of you, with Brandon and Ev. And it is a pleasure to talk here about trends in packaging sector. And we will try to explain a little bit what is a cluster, what are we doing nowadays, and what is our goal. So Packaging Cluster, I don't know if you know what is the cluster, a cluster tool, but we are representing more than 100 members of the packaging from all the value chain of the packaging sector. It means the researchers, the manufacturers, the end user, brand owners, the whole value chain. So we're trying to connect this the whole line, and we're trying to promote this networking between them to get new projects to boost the innovation here in Spain, in Barcelona, in Catalonia. And we're trying to, we do also different activities to give some knowledge, and also we're trying to offer market studies and all these kind of things to improve their competitiveness. So I think collaboration and knowledge, it is so important, and we try to connect with different also entities from all over the world to show this best practice to our members and to know how other companies are working from all over the world. So I think
that's great, and it's interesting because you see the whole value chain, as you've mentioned now. So when you discuss, and this is something that will be interesting for us to discuss today, is different geographies and also the different levels, the different actors that need to come together for innovation to happen, right? So it's great. Thank you, Serena. Brennan, welcome again, and please tell us a little bit about yourself, and please, no picture of kids. I've tried it. I know it works. I know it works, and I've tried it before. But today, we'll keep that off. Huh? So.
No, that's great. I do apologize if they burst into the room right now. I am working from home. We are on lockdown here in Los Angeles, so yeah, a lot of that going around.
Yeah, please just don't do like that BBC guy, just pushing the kid. If it happens, just embrace him and just say hello.
No, it's certainly happened before. So just real quick about me and kind of our work out here in Los Angeles. So I'm the president of Pacific Packaging Components, or PPC Packaging. We've been around for about 50 years. My grandparents actually started it. My parents have been running the business for the past 40 years, and I recently took over kind of the leadership of the day-to-day operations. We're very much focused on the future. We do a lot of work with sustainable packaging, smart packaging, and kind of functioning as kind of a middleman in between what the customers are really asking for. So our customers would be brands in the food and beverage, beauty, and pharma nutra kind of industries. And so we start with them and what they're looking for, and then we go find the manufacturing partners around the world in order to solve those problems. So we're kind of like the easy button when it comes to packaging problems. As I kind of mentioned, we do a lot of work with kind of helping brands become more sustainable with their packaging. A lot of work with post-consumer to recycled regrind and the plastic components, and actually serve with a retailer out here in the US of developing and designing sustainable packaging guidelines for their brands. So that's a retail member that's putting constraints and restrictions on brands and the packaging that they choose. So
that's great.
Yeah,
that's
just a little bit about us.
Yeah, and I think it's also really interesting to and this is what we're trying to achieve here, is to see the whole picture, because every actor, the packaging industry is a $3 trillion or $900 billion industry, so it's really big. It's different actors, and it's quite difficult to see the whole picture. Everyone is looking at their own thing and so on. And so it's great that you see both the manufacturers and the brand owners. So you're in the middle, and you see innovation happening on both ends. So it will be great. I think your contribution will be really, really interesting here. Please
hello.
Yourself.
Is my microphone on? Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Eve de Ferrente. I'm Managing Director of AIPIA, Active and Intelligent Packaging Industry Association. In short, the Global Smart Packaging Hub. What we do, we are an association.
And Eve has the coolest background ever. So we've been discussing that.
Yes.
That's where innovation starts, by your background.
Exactly.
So that's where you should start innovating.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. What we do is we are an association promoting the use and implementation of new technologies in packaging. And well, before going into detail, I don't want to do that right now. We have 7 goals what we want to achieve with implementing new technologies in packaging. And I will mention the 7 goals now, and maybe if you have a question later on how we want to achieve that, we can talk about that later. The 7 goals of smart packaging are as follows: fighting waste, track, trace and control of your product in the supply chain, brand protection through packaging, consumer loyalty, which means getting in touch with the user through the packaging, mobile commerce. If somebody ordered something, you know who did that and you can chase him. Supply chain efficiency by smart packaging, and shelf life extension. So this is what we're looking for. And this is the introduction.
Excellent. Thank you, F. And we also had a great contribution from Pierre Pienard, and I hope I pronounce his name correctly, who's the president of the World Packaging Association, who has really kindly prepared a video for us that will be made available for everyone on LinkedIn, by email as well, talking about the impact, especially of sustainability in innovation and of packaging. And I'll bring some of his arguments and of the data that he brought to us here during our conversation. And the full video will be provided on our social media and also by email for everyone who has registered. Really interesting video, really valuable information there as well. Since I think it, of course, there's always the danger that it's everyone's a little bit tired of this subject. Every headlines is talking about COVID and so on. So let's start with it, because we cannot ignore it. It's a reality, and it has impacted our lives, and it has surely impacted the way we deal with packaging and the way that people think packaging for the future. I would like to hear from you if you have seen in your in the companies that you deal with, or in your day-to-day work, if you have any examples of how COVID has speeded up the innovation in the packaging industry, some interesting cases, or some stories about COVID plus packaging. One thing that we all see, and that's obvious, I'm seeing the point of packaging must be e-commerce friendly. Packaging, and that's something that was not on the agenda. If we were looking at the innovation from last year, of course it was always there, but it was surely not on the top 3, top 5. And right now we're seeing a booming, the e-commerce booming. So this is one aspect. Everyone who's in packaging knows that this will need to be shipped somewhere. So if your packaging is not e-commerce friendly, then you might not have a good packaging solution. Are there other innovations that have been forced by the COVID?
Well, I would say, in our view, well, of course, I mean, COVID has a, well, how to say it, temporarily bad influence on the supply chains. So all the supply chains from China are in trouble. People ordering, buying less. I mean, the shops are closed. So in general, we are not in a good situation. But this is not new. I mean, I personally at IPR, we see that it also creates a lot of chances. And one of the chances which COVID creates is the item level coding, which means that you can give through the packaging a unique identity to each product in order, for example, to follow it throughout the supply chain. Especially in the pharmaceutical industry, this is of highly interesting, of course, because you know, there is a demand at the consumer side, but also at the brand side, to know more about the product. And the only constant factor at the product is the packaging around it. So if you can make the packaging a unique thing, then by a code or whatsoever, it means you will get much more information. So it has all to do with digitalization of the supply chain. And we see that, you know, we're all, I mean, we are now also doing much more webinars. We are doing online congresses. We're meeting each other. We are talking each other much more actually in a digital way, which means our minds are moving, changing to being more digital. So in that case, I believe that COVID will have a good influence on digitalization in the packaging industry.
Yeah, there's a bad joke, and I hope people are not tired of this joke because I've told it quite a few times. So the guy was talking to another person from a friend, owner of another company. So who was responsible for digital transformation in your company? Well, it was the CTO. Was it the CTO, the CFO, the CEO, the CIO? Oh, actually, it was COVID. Right, so because it's pushing, and we're talking to customers, to potential customers around the world. So from Latin America to India, Hungary, Germany. And
but you, if I may interrupt you, I mean, it's a joke, but it has a serious background, because digitalization in packaging. Who's responsible for that? I mean, it's a serious question.
Everyone, yeah. It's
so if you talk with a brand, there is not an owner of digitalization in packaging, because indeed it's IT, it's marketing, it's the technical director, operations, supply chain. It's, you know, there's not a specific owner of digitalization in packaging, which is a reason why it's not developing very fast.
That's true. That's true. Serena, would you like to add something to it?
No, we are totally agree with F. I think the COVID, the pandemic has had a huge impact, not only human, but also on the economical and technological level. We can see here in Spain, at least, the more flexible companies has improved their sales because they could adapt itself to this new digitalization, these changes. No, they have insert this strategic change into their business core, and they improve the digitalization of their processes. And this is not only because of the demands of the consumer, and it is because if they want to be still on the market, they need to adapt itself to these new demands. And digitalization, it is the key. Of course, we have we could see giant steps that in other contexts it takes years, but now the consumers demand to know when you get these new products, where it comes from, to know the traceability of this product, to know if when it is being manufactured, it respects all the process, that is, this product it is local, because it avoids the footprint carbon and all the sustainability process, and it needs to know this consumer that this product ends on, it is managed properly, and it is recycled, and all these demands are changing this strategy. Yeah, that's one thing, one important step for members, at least. Only if you have this, I don't know how to say, if you're flexible, innovative, well, big companies, it is difficult for them when you have so many departments, and usually if you're vertical and there's so many steps in order to do new things. If you have to ask many lawyers of the company, it is difficult to get new innovations.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it starts with communication. The way we're communicating has changed during this year, right? I really ask myself if we would be making this webinar if it was not for COVID, if it was not for, so would we, the amount and the value of the Zoom stocks show us that how, so we had already inside sales in our DNA, so trying to talk to people, and it's something simple. So it's not changing only the packaging industry, it's changing all the industries, but I think it starts with the way we communicate, and that has been forcing us. It was pre-COVID, it was really difficult to get people on a video conference. People would ask me, oh, do you use Skype? Or so Skype, nobody talks about Skype anymore because normally it does not work. So it's evolving fast. People are getting in touch with new technologies, and in terms of digitization, I think it has sped up. Brennan, please give us your thoughts on this, on how COVID, or if COVID has helped or jeopardized the innovation in the packaging industry.
Yeah, I mean, COVID has certainly impacted everyone in really significant ways. And one of the ways that we've approached it is to be able to ask the question, what can we learn from this? And so from the supply side, the supply chain has certainly been disrupted with extended lead times and the need for secondary and tertiary suppliers. And so how can technology be able to facilitate a brand that needs a certain type of packaging, whether it's a rigid type of packaging or flexible or display, and how can we pivot quickly to be able to find secondary suppliers around the world that can solve that? Right now, it's a very antiquated process to be able to go find those, replacement parts. So I think there's a lot of learning there. On the supply side, we're seeing, at least here in the US, massive lawsuits from manufacturers of hand sanitizer that received huge orders from retailers here in the US. And then as the supply increased dramatically to where it exceeded the demand, all of those orders started to be canceled. And so the manufacturers of the hand sanitizer and then the packaging that was ordered from them, all of those were in great abundance, and the retailers didn't want to pay for them anymore. And so there's also an opportunity there for us to learn from that and say, okay, the next time we experience a crisis and we need to ramp up quickly, how can we leverage technology to be able to ensure that we don't achieve those push-pull supply chain impacts that are going to affect businesses up and down the supply chain?
Yeah, that's another good point, because it has impacted somehow. Either some markets, you've mentioned hand sanitizers. Any company making packaging for hand sanitizers in the world, they will tell you that they got their best year ever, right? So they got.
We certainly did.
Yeah, they got their best year ever, while other packaging industries have been I had a conversation. It has really touched me. It was really tough with a company in Latin America making cardboard boxes for the automotive industry. So cardboard boxes should be okay, but not for the automotive industry, right? He was really desperate in the call. So really, you could see. So while some companies are really growing really fast, and then you have pressure to innovate, to get more efficient, to get more capacity, other companies have the pressure to innovate, to reduce costs, to get more demand, to get new customers with new features, and so on. So I think these disruptions, they are always, they make you adapt. Anything that make you adapt, it forces the innovation, right? You're not allowed to be attached to the status quo anymore. I think that's the main message that COVID has sent to us in many aspects of our businesses and lives. So status quo is not a choice. Like sitting comfortable on the couch is not an option. You're not safe on the couch, right? So I think that's the pressure for innovation.
Yeah, and I think it's also really needed. And you know, during times like this is when the challenges in our supply chain are really shown.
Yeah.
But now the question is, so now we know this challenge and the changes affected by things which we couldn't predict. Are we able next time to predict that, or to know what to do next time? And if yes, how?
I'm a big adept, before I pass it, of Nassim Taleb. I like what he writes in terms of the black swan theory. I don't know if you know it, but it says that the world is shaped by really unpredictable events. Yeah, there's some discussion whether COVID was predictable or not predictable, because everyone has been talking about a big pandemic and so on. But he says, okay, there's no way you can predict, because by definition it is not, and you cannot prepare yourself for the right thing, because otherwise it would not be predictable, right? And the tsunamis that shape countries and
okay, I understand. So you cannot predict, but can we?
You need to be. So I think we need to be agile. I think that's the answer. We cannot be too heavy. If you have too much luggage, I think that means the way to think like with an MVP mindset, a minimum viable product. Start small. Be flexible. I think that's because you cannot say, if you prepare for COVID, it's not COVID that will affect us. Another thing will come. So sorry.
Yeah, well, it's not. Of course, we can't predict it, but are we able next time to move faster? And how? What do we need for that?
Yeah,
that's the question.
Yeah.
I think,
any thoughts, Serena?
yeah, I think next time will be the same. I mean, companies which they have this innovation style on their mindset, they will know how to think fast and to act fast, to adapt itself, to introduce these new technologies and new resources that are getting to know now, and to incorporate it to their processes. And the other ones that are sitting on the couch, like Cristiano was saying, and they expect that the context will change by themselves, their company, and they are not going to do anything. They will, I don't know how to say, but there's no way for them.
No room for them.
Yeah.
Brennan, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, there was a packaging friend of mine who was kind of describing the way that we were able to solve a bunch of the packaging problems this year with either hand sanitizer or with our beauty customers, and they said that we were really lucky. And he said, well, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Or there's some quote that I like that. And so while we can't predict what's going to happen, we can certainly prepare. And so what we're doing with a lot of our customers, and I encourage anyone watching this to be able to do this, is start to develop a secondary supply chain, a tertiary supply chain, in case that first one gets disrupted. That's just one way to prepare. And I think technology is going to make that easier and easier to be able to do.
Yeah. I totally agree. I had the chance of working in the tech world, or in startups, or you have really a mindset of you need to be able to adapt, and I think adaptation is the key word here when you're talking about innovation, and that's the challenge. I mean, in the packaging industry, because the innovation cycle is really long, right? Because it demands that all actors along the chain react? If you say, okay, I would like to put an RFID chip on my PET bottle, let's say, because I want to track it. I want and I don't want to glue it on with a label. I want to inject it in the preform so that it comes with an RFID chip so that I can read it no matter how. It's a great idea, right? People have been discussing that in the last 10 years. But then you need not only, how many actors do you have to convince, or how many players you need to convince? You need the machine builder to be able to insert that chip. You need the brand owner to be able to use that chip, and so on and so forth, right? So I think how do we shorten the innovation cycle? I think that's one question that will allow us to be faster when another, and I hope it doesn't happen in the next 50 years or so, another thing like COVID, but how do we react faster? And I think that's less hierarchy, better communication, better mindset. I think when we communicate better, flat hierarchies, you react faster. I think that's my take on it. F, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, it's, again, well, you gave a good example. So if you want to make a bottle smart by putting a technology on it, for example, I mean, that's not an issue nowadays. It is more, what do we want to achieve? So I truly feel that COVID has put a pressure on our industry, that we need to know more about our supply chains. And not only COVID, but also this is already going on for the last 4 or 5 years, that the consumer want to know more about the product. So if that's the point, you should look at, what do I want to achieve? Do I want to enhance my supply chain? If yes, then you can look for technologies how to do it. Or you can, if you say, okay, I want to get in closer contact with my customer through the packaging, I want to give more real-time information on the product. Where does it come from? Where is the farmer being paid well? Is it a fair product? Things like that. It's very hot at this moment. You should look at, okay, how can I achieve that? So first, in innovation, it's always important, what do I want to achieve?
Yeah, the goals.
The way to that goal nowadays is easy, because you just, the world is at our feet.
Mm-hmm. And F, you've mentioned 7 main goals of innovation, right? Could you repeat those for us? Because I think that's a good take for everyone watching. To say, hey, if I want to innovate, because I imagine in big companies you have innovation managers, you have these, but many times we're talking to medium-sized family-owned business. They don't have one innovation engineer and so on. But on the other hand, they have an engineering team that is asked, hey, what's new? What should we do new? And if we have one menu of, okay, these are the goals that we should think, the things we should achieve with innovation. Could you please repeat those?
Of course. Let me repeat. If you want, I can share the list on screen, but you don't know. Let me just mention them. Mm-hmm. So the 7 goals of innovation in packaging are, in our view, are fighting waste. Mm-hmm. Which is also recycling.
Mm-hmm. Fighting waste, because there are 2 aspects, and here I would like, and sorry to interrupt you, in Pierre's presentation, he was mentioning 2 things. So we need to avoid packaging waste, so to make sure that it's on a circular economy, but we should not forget that the main why was packaging born? What was the first use of packaging? It's eliminating food waste. So waste of packaging and waste of food.
Yeah.
Right?
So, well, indeed, these are the two kinds of fighting waste. Although we have another goal which is shelf life extension. So how to extend the shelf life of the product by the packaging. So this is also a form of fighting waste, of course. But let me go through the list, which is our 7 goals of what we want to achieve with new technologies in packaging. Is fighting waste. And well, again, this also is recycling. So how to better recycle the product, how to know how the recycling of the product works, how do we get information on what's the kind of material and how to recycle it. So fighting waste, track, trace and control. So knowing where is my product. Brand protection. Well, this is definitely, of course, an interesting topic in the pharma industry. So, I mean, if we're talking about COVID, nobody wants to have a false injection.
Counterfeiting, right?
A fake, yeah.
Let's avoid counterfeiting, right?
And anti-counterfeiting, yes. Consumer loyalty. So how to get in touch with the consumer through the packaging. And there are several technologies and ideas for that, but this is the goal. Mobile commerce. So as once you know who is your customer through the packaging, you can get more in touch with them. You know, there's always this dream of the, let's say, the whiskey company. Maybe it's not a very good example, but let's say the whiskey company. So you bought a bottle of whiskey. I know that Brandon is buying whiskey every 2 days. So
not that often, but yeah.
Okay. So you bought a bottle of whiskey in the retail and you scanned it because you want to know about the recycling of the bottle, or where does this whiskey come from? Is it a fair product or whatsoever? So at that time, the brand knows you. And why not sending a message in 1 month or 2 months? Okay, if you running out of whiskey, we have a new offer for you, or something like that. Yeah. So that's consumer loyalty. That's mobile commerce. Sorry about that. Supply chain efficiency. So the only constant factor in the supply chain of the product is the packaging. So you must use the packaging to increase the efficiency in the supply chain. There are several ways and ideas to do that. And shelf life extension. So that the cheese or the broccoli will not last 7 days, but you know, 10 days or 12. I've had a few years ago a discussion with a broccoli grower in, I think he was in Chile or Argentina or Peru or something like that. It was an American company. They're growing broccoli there. And they are flying the broccoli from their growing area, from Peru or Argentina, I don't know where, they're flying it to Florida by plane. Because the broccoli lasts 7 days. So you have to sell it within sell and use it within 7 days. So if you can extend the shelf life of that product with a few days, let's say to 10 or 12 days, you would be able not to fly it to Florida, but to ship it, which is a huge footprint reduction.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So, and I would like to take on that. So, fighting waste, track, trace, and control, brand protection, consumer connection, mobile commerce, supply chain efficiency, and shelf life extension. Huh?
Yes, that's correct.
That's great. And I think a lot of times packaging is seen as a villain, because when you finish your day, you have your garbage can full of packaging, you say, "Oh, it's bad." But it's difficult to remember all of the impact that it has had on our lives. According to Professor Pianar's presentation, 25% of food produced in the world, and that has a connection with F's broccolis, is wasted. So imagine every 4 apples, you're throwing 1 apple away. And why is that? Because it's not used. It doesn't get where it should be, and so on. And that's mainly that can be solved by packaging. Also, Adam Peak, the host, and a professional host, so it's not someone like me that doesn't know how to host a webinar, but a professional one. He was mentioning that's how I saw the purpose of my job. How to make packaging into something sexy. He said, I just realized that packaging is sexy when I understood that people in Africa are starving, and there is already enough food in the world to feed them. If we could put that in the right packaging to send to these people and not to waste these food. So waste of food is something really, really serious. And it's also a way for us to reconnect with the purpose of packaging. And I think that drives innovation. But I would like to ask something to Brandon. Brandon, who pushes innovation first? You're between the two edges, right? You have the demand, you have the supply and demand. You're between supply and demand. Are the brand owners asking more for it, or are suppliers trying to push, hey, and shouting, hey, I've got something new? Where does it come from normally? Where does innovation in packaging come from?
Well, I think we know that innovation can come from anywhere along the value chain. I think what's probably the more important question is how do we ensure that the value of the innovation is resonating with the people that it matters most to, which is the customer or the consumers that are going to end up paying for it. And so whether it's, RFID chips and plastic, is it gonna bring value to all members of the value chain, and then at the very end, is it going to deliver something to the customer that's really going to make a difference in their lives? So what we're seeing for most of the time is that the innovation that resonates the most is the innovation that's really needed or wanted from the consumer standpoint, and that can either be at the brand or at the customer level, at least for us.
Excellent. Serena, where do you think innovation is mostly coming from?
Well, I think, as Brando was saying, it's all along the value chain, but it is also the consumers' demand, which are really concerned now, and they know they're asking about what is happening, and this is pushing to the manufacturers to see what they can do, what sustainable options they can offer, and to see where to find these solutions. Also, they have to adapt to these regulatory new issues. But for example, here in Europe has new regulatories that you have to adapt yourself and to try to follow these kind of things. So I think it's both sides, but we have now a consumer with a lot of information with social media, and now they can look for the brand on the social networks to know what they communicate, which information they get to them, and how to connect and find this engagement. Also, it's not always this loyalty to one brand, because consumers want to taste new options, and that's why maybe single use, single doses of products are also a new trend or a new option, which is one thing that we're seeing.
Let's try and make it practical. I'm a packaging manufacturer. I'm making plastic tubes, so to say, or flexible packaging. I have one company with 400 employees, and I want to differentiate myself, my product, and so on. Where should I look for innovation? Where should I start? Who should I call? the Ghostbusters, or who should we call to start? Hey, we need to do something new. We need to. The CEO has the vision. He knows that he wants to be in the forefront. He doesn't want to be just one more. Where should we start? And here I would also like, as a bad host, I also forgot to say, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send those questions to us. To the audience, if you have any questions, we'll make sure that the questions are answered here. And so who should I call if I want to innovate? Should I machine makers, associations, trade shows? Where should I look for innovation?
I would, well, actually, to be honest, I would call somebody. No, I would call the nerd. Is that the right English word? The nerd at the IT department. That funny guy who is a bit twisted, a bit strange, who doesn't connect to normal people, who sits behind his desk with his hair in a knot. That guy you need to talk to, because he thinks different than we do. We are old style people, you know. You need to talk to the young guys who have a total different view of the world than we do. They think, you know, there are my niece, she's 24, something like that, that she did a sort of study for a few months, growth hacking. That study never existed 1.5 years ago. And I asked her, well, many times, what is it, growth hacking? And she explained me, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. So you need to talk to these people, because that's where it starts. That's my idea.
That's good. And first of all, being able that your company is able to hire those people, that allow those people to enter your company, because many companies are so conservative. The mindset is so closed that you only hire similar people that think like you.
Well, so the second one you have to call is the president of the board, because he has to fire the CEO. Full stop. Because the CEO is blocking it.
I would start with the groups that are tracking trends on the consumer and brand level. And so what's the most important thing with consumers right now? And so, for example, at least in the beauty industry, the sustainability of the packaging, the sustainability of the product has risen to the top of things that they are most concerned about. And so from there, as a packaging supplier, if you're making tubes, how can you make your product more sustainable to be able to resonate with customers? So there's the use of PCR. There's you know, looking at different materials with bioresins. With CBD and marijuana becoming, or cannabis becoming legal across the world, the demand for hemp-based plastics is increasing dramatically. And so to me, there's a lot of places where you can go to look at what the trends are now and what they're going to be, and then finding kind of the niche that you're most excited about, you're most passionate about, and you can deliver on, and then start to make progress in that area with the interesting people that F was just talking about.
Oh, that's great. Serena?
Maybe also to add, not only to see the whole picture with all the stakeholders.
Call me, no, Serena. Call me. If you want to know about innovation, call me.
That's what we try, you know, to give all these insights to our members. But it's not easy. You have to be connected all the time to see different experience. And I think maybe it's a good thing to do is to see other solutions in different sectors, because maybe if you're working on beauty, for example, you could see maybe on the cars what they are working with, kind of solution they have, or maybe they have no connection, but maybe there is a connection, and you can see how to replicate it on your sector. Maybe that's one thing to do, but also collaboration and research, new tools as the clusters and big networks are so important. Big open mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think in the end, and it starts with the mindset. It really does. So it's not linked to how innovative companies are, and we can only speak in terms of the manufacturing aspects of innovation, right? That's what we see the most, and it doesn't matter where those companies are. And the only thing that companies have, the most innovative ones, those ones that are on the forefront, the one thing that they have in common is a CEO with a vision. So that's why I like and agree with F. That's, it doesn't matter where they are. So I've been in contact with companies in El Salvador making packaging, and they have 15 or 20 developers working exclusively for the company. So that's not the hiring McKinsey. No, we're going to do that, and we're going to learn how to do that. And why is that? Because the owner's crazy good, right?
No.
It's that's or the CEO has a vision. I'd like to ask we've got a great question here from JDS. What do you believe are the critical must-have components for consumer good packaging? Do you think real-time information about products is a crucial trend to follow? What about e-commerce? How can packaging enhance digital sales? So I think we have a couple of questions together here. So do you see in consumer goods packaging any good example in how e-commerce and this information, these digital sales, and the impact of packaging in digital sales of consumer good packaging, and how to get this real-time information? Do you have any specific cases that we could share, that you could share?
You're asking that?
Yeah, please, F. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Well, yes, there are several cases. You know, the whole idea of this is that what you need is item level coding. You need each product what you sell, even if it's just I don't know, toothpaste or a soap dispenser. If this soap dispenser has a unique identity, which nowadays is very easily possible, then, I mean, this is the route to go. I mean, if you talk about e-commerce packaging, door-to-door delivering, brand to consumer sales, this is all about item level coding, knowing which product, even one item, one small item, knowing where is this item, or who has it, where is it going to, and where does it have to go to. This is all coding. And
it's mainly printing, right? So it's
80% of the through printing, yes.
You can, of course, you can have or printing or labeling. In the end, it's printing as well. But in the end, it's, and I think that's where digital printing is making, is growing really fast, right? In all the packaging industries, because you have batch size number one. I think that's what Dave is mentioning, right? Batch size is one piece nowadays. Brendan, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean,
Great. By the way, great question, JDS. Thank you for that, Tom.
Yeah, I'd be curious what all the panelists think of this too. But the technologies that HEMA, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, the grocery store chain in China that's owned by Alibaba. I think the technologies that are being used there are a lot of what we're talking about here. Is that
can you describe the technology for everyone, Brendan? What they
I mean, from what I can understand and the limited reading I've kind of done on it, is that basically Alibaba's created this grocery store called Hema that is totally integrated. So every single item that is sold in there has a unique code that can be scanned by the customer, actually scanned, purchased, ordered, shipped. Every single package has information about its shelf life, where it was picked, the origin of the product, really all sorts of information. And it's all integrated. So it's all basically connected through one basic centralized system. Am I describing it correctly?
Yeah, yes, definitely. Yeah. You know, there are several examples of this on the market. And of course, you know, it's a little bit, you can compare it with the car industry. The most important car manufacturer in the world is going to be a technology company, a data company, not a car manufacturer. I mean, making that car is not an issue. And that is the same with packaging. The most advanced and biggest and most important packaging company in the world in the future is not a packaging company, it's a technology company. So it's all about big data, item level coding, consumer engagement, brand to consumer business. So it's well, again, the most influential packaging company in the future is not going to be a packaging company. It's going to be a data-driven company.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest challenges that we've seen in kind of the development of a lot of this technology is that you have to get buy-in from so many different players along the value chain. And it's that collaboration. Our old school minded kind of way of thinking is that we all each do our own part and we all protect our data that needs to be proprietary and secretive. And in order for this to really work, we need to change the way that we're thinking, and we need to be more kind of open and transparent. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and it was a great point by F, because I think technology companies are already doing that. They're much more used to benchmarking, to exchange, to write content, because these idea of industrial secrecy, right? Or, oh, I've got to need, of course, patents, when you have, they're still really valuable and so on. I don't want to discuss that, but exchanging information to when the tide goes up, all boats rise, right? So just exchanging information and being more open to communicate, to write about what you're doing, and transparency. And I think brand owners in the end will demand that from packaging manufacturers. They want to have more data. How are you doing? How do you, how much capacity do you still have left? And of course, I think packaging manufacturers might fight that, might want to fight that. But I think in the end, it's good for everybody. So all the industry will be more efficient. All industry will be better prepared for whatever comes. Serena, would you like to add something?
I was just thinking the same. Like, databases give you a lot of information to learn about the new patterns of behavior of these consumers. And for example, here we have seen different examples of success among our members, which they were also in the way of digital transformation and to introduce e-commerce into their business, and they see how the sales have increased a lot, and they have improved their sales during this pandemic. So we can see this kind of importance of e-commerce, and also sustainability. For example, we have another example of a small startup which has this packaging that you can, for delivery also, to deliver food, which has to be also immediately, because now everything has to be now, and if it's yesterday, it is better. But they have this packaging which you have when the food comes from the sushi that you order online on your platform, your app. You can return this packaging, and in this way you give this packaging a shelf life, more
so it's a reusable
shelf-life.
It's a reusable packaging for deliveries that you can scan and say, hey, this is what I've got, and I want to give this back because I don't want to throw this in the bin, right?
Exactly. It also has this technology included when you can follow where is your packaging, and in order to not to recover this packaging.
So it closed the loop with what F has said. So everybody wants to know more and more, where is this coming from? Or so this piece, where does it come from, or what it contains, and so on. So in the packaging as the only piece that joins the product from the beginning to the end, or that's attached to the product, right?
The design has to communicate this too.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to see that the design is the same as what they were talking. I mean, the materials which they are made, like only one material in order to fabricate, to get this recyclability of the product, no? To use, like, for example, paper or materials that can be recycled properly. That is important too. Sorry, Brandon.
No. I actually believe that what you're describing right now is innovative, and in 5 years, it's going to be standard. It's going to be normal for every customer to be able to interact with their packaging in that way. And brands, especially on the recycling side, because the recycling rates for plastic here in the US are horrible. But brands want to take more ownership in their consumers and inspire them and encourage them to be able to recycle. And so they're building ways into their packaging. So when so customers can scan it, say, hey, I recycled this. And if they do it enough times with that brand, the brand can actually give them incentives or rewards for doing good things for the environment, whether it's discounts or free gifts with purchase or something like that. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's great. You know, when I think of that, I cannot believe that it's going to happen without a multidisciplinary team, right? You really need people from different backgrounds to be able to think that through, because if you a traditional packaging manufacturer will have engineers only, and people who only think about the process itself and so on. So I think it's also connected with what Eve has said. So bring more people to the discussion that will think data, that are heavy users of technology, of B2C technology. So not only the technology that's on our factories and so on, but also technology that can. So building those teams, I think it's of primary importance. And one thing that we should touch, I think we have 10 more minutes or so, and I think we could close with it. It's sustainability. It's difficult to talk about sustainability as innovation, right? There's one nice article at the Packaging Association, at the Packaging Cluster, that I read at Serena's website. It says from J.M. Garofé, sustainability is not a trend, it's an urgency, right? So we've been talking about digital transformation and so on and the impact, but I think the main issue, even after COVID and so on, although we're throwing one-way masks away every day, single-use masks, I hope not everyone, but sustainability is still the biggest topic, right, when it comes to packaging. so I would like to hear a little bit from you. What are you seeing in terms of what are you seeing new? Because this discussion has been on in the last 10 years, 20 years, really strong. But what is really, is there something really new? And I would like you to bring one specific use case or one specific iconic packaging design or packaging use that you've seen. Serena has mentioned the sushi, going from single-use packaging to returnable packaging. Do you have any other takes on sustainability and how it impacts innovation, or it's connected to innovation? And if you have any iconic examples, that would be great too. F, do you want to...
Well, sustainability in our view has two aspects. One is a role which we don't touch, which means is the reuse of existing materials. But what we do look at is the recycling. So at the end of line, and what we see at this moment is that there are technologies coming up to give again a unique identity to a material by, for example, injecting a code into the material, which you cannot see by the eye, or well, a hologram. And at the end of the waistline, in the recycling line, you can use cameras to check which kind of materials are in this waistline and filter them out. So this is, it sounds futuristic, but there are companies already working on that, like Digimark. They give a unique identity to the material, not to a packaging, but to the material of the packaging. And that unique identity can be used for recycling.
So in the recycling plant, you have scanners that are saying, hey, this material belongs to that bin or to that machine, and so on and so. Because when you look at these recycling facilities, well, all you see is a lot of people just sorting. Sorting is the greatest issue, right, of packaging. Just Colgate is doing a great effort in those laminate tubes. When you have these barriers mixing aluminum adhesive, plastic, that's terrible to recycle. They're moving into the direction also of making plastic that can be used for blow molded bottles. So you can take one toothpaste tube and make blow molded, and so they're working in the whole value chain to make sure that it's reusable. It's but a too strong down cycle, huh? Because
this all has to start at the very beginning of the supply chain, the production of packaging material. It has to start there. And this is, this is a complicated supply chain because, well, can you imagine? I mean, if you want to add a code to, I don't know, a Coca-Cola bottle or a Colgate tube or a shampoo bottle, you probably have to stop the machines for some time to add that technology to the machines, to add it to the material, etc. But you cannot, I don't know if all the CEOs think like that, but believe me, the CEO at Coca-Cola will say, we are not going to stop the machines. So it's a difficult, long journey.
Yeah, and I think that it's all get connected with what Brendan mentioned in the beginning, bringing the end customer back to the table, right? Understanding what is their need, because through the brand owners, because the value chain is so long, I think packaging manufacturers get disconnected from. So they have a boss who's the brand itself, but bringing the end consumer back, maybe they'll be able to push innovation with the voice of the end consumer more, because they need to bring this voice. This is the only voice that everyone listens to.
it is the end consumer who has the most
Power.
influence.
Yeah.
One of the biggest needs here in the U.S. is plastic recycling, and really all packaging is either labeled as it recyclable or is it not recyclable.
No.
And it's kind of the wrong question to be asking, because whether it's recyclable or not doesn't really matter. Will it be recycled in the recycling stream that's in your local area?
Yeah.
And so technology gives us the way to where a customer could take out their phone, scan a package, and it would tell you, yes, recycle this, put it in our blue recycle bin, or don't recycle this, put it in the trash bin, because wish cycling causes more damage to the recycling stream than almost anything else, which is, products that are being sent to the recycling stream that are going to be sorted out and then sent over to the landfill. And so if technology can solve that problem and we can get everyone, all of the key stakeholders involved in that, that would save billions of dollars.
Well, you said the right thing. If technology can solve that problem, and that is what we believe we should. The solution is in technology. It's not in rules and regulation. Of course, it will help a bit. You can teach the people, don't do this, don't do that, don't throw it away here or there. But this is very difficult. The solution, it's only the technology which can influence the people. Look around you. You are influenced by technology, and not so.
Technology has surely. I just wanted to bring one interesting data from Professor's Pierre presentation from World Packaging Organization. By 2025, we will be recycling only 50% of all plastic packaging in the world. So 50%, every 2 bottles of water that we drink, 1 will be recycled only. We need to improve this, right?
When in 2025?
Yes, correct. That's the estimate. That's
okay.
50% will be recycled. And he has a nice phrase that says, so plastic surely has its place, but it's not in the sea, right? So it is important. It's an important raw material, and we need to work on that. So be it with technology, there's this company in Germany making aerosol cans. The aerosol can, it has an issue. It's aluminum. So you think, okay, it's great because aluminum is recyclable. But the issue is that most processes only work with 99.9 purity of aluminum. So it needs to be really pure aluminum. So recycled aluminum cannot come back to the value chain. And that's always downcycling. And now they've achieved to be able to work with PCR, with post-consumer material, right? So that you can bring that back to the value chain. Serena, would you like to add something in terms of sustainability and how to innovate in that field?
Yes, well, plastic, I think it is like a big issue, but also has a bad publicity. It's not, the problem is not the material itself, it is how we manage this waste, how we deal with all this amount of plastic waste. I mean, the sorting facilities are prepared to this plastic because there's so many things done with the material. But when you are investing in new materials, you have to know, as Brando was saying, which are the capacity, how it works, the sorting facilities and the recycle facilities, because maybe they are not prepared as here to this new material. I mean, there's sort of things that we can, well, the better thing would be throw waste with no plastic at all. But
no, that's not an option, right? That's not an option.
Yeah.
So I think we're running out of time. So I would like to close the the webinar with a big thank you to all participants, all panelists, and to Professor Pierre as well, who kindly sent us the video that will be made available to everyone who has sent questions. I would like you to close with one recommendation or with one phrase for someone who wants to innovate.
I thought you're going to sing.
Yeah, that I think if we want to send people home and everyone to shut down their computers, we could do that.
Correct the screen.
I think that's an option. But I would like you to close with one phrase to motivate people to innovate, and what should they do? One phrase.
Wow.
Yeah, Serena.
Well, well, I will start it. Well, I will say that there's like 4 main topics for me in this new year, 2021, like sustainability in the whole process, not only the result, but only how you make it, the energy that you use, and all the process. Try to adapt to these new technologies, digital transformation, and to be just informed and to read the newspapers. Try to make packaging not only as one thing to protect your product, but also as an experience for everyone. And of course, collaboration to hear new best practice and research, and just listen to what is happening on your ecosystem, and to see the whole, not to try to compete with all the companies, and try to hear what they know and to share.
Perfect. Thank you, Serena. Thank you very much. Brandon.
Be courageous and collaborate.
Excellent. Excellent. F.
If you don't digitalize, you will be out of business in 5 years.
Excellent.
Bye-bye.
So perfect. Thank you all. Thank you for all attendees and the panelists. I hope you enjoyed this time with us. Let's communicate better. Let's talk to each other. Let's share.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And for all those who have stayed, everything will be recorded, and we'll share the links with everyone. And thank you again. So, and of course, you have our contact details. Don't hesitate to share your questions. If we didn't have the chance to answer them here, just let us know. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.